Hello students, this video lesson I'll be explaining to you about the poetry Death Be Not Brought. Now this poem consists of 14 lines. Now poems that is 14 lines are called sonnet. So this poem is a sonnet. Before I explain further, I want you to Google the biographical background of John Donne, as it will help you to enhance the knowledge of the poet and at the same time the poem as well. Okay, so I want you to go through the biographical background of John Donne. Now coming to the popularity of this poem is also known as Holy Sonnet 10. This sonnet was written by John Donne in the year 1633. Now John Donne was a famous poet even during his time and even during our times, right? Okay, so the popularity of this poem lies in its unique subject, as it was a devotional as well as a warning of personified death. Okay, I'll come to the word personified later on. Using the metaphor of death, the poet argues that death is not permanent and it serves as an eternal pathway to life hereafter. He also has demonstrated in this poem the Christian doctrine of resurrection and immortality of the soul, calling death as an inferior. Okay, now coming to the word personification, a literary device called personification has been used in this very poem. As a personification means to attribute human features to non-human things. Okay, for example, like the death, that is it's not a death is not a living thing, right? But John Donne has given the quality of a human being, okay, of a living thing to death. Okay, so giving life to non-living things is called personification. Now Donne has personified death throughout the poem, stating it should not be brought. Being brought is a human quality, right? Okay, so hence death is given a human quality of having feelings and emotions. The way the speaker talks of death reveals that he is not afraid of death and does not think that death should be sure of himself and so brought. Now the confident tone of death be not brought and the direct confrontation of death provides an ironic sense of comfort to the readers by implicitly suggesting that death is not to be feared at all, but that in the end, death will be overcome by something even greater. So what is that greater thing that can overcome death? We will see in this poem. Okay, now before I continue with your poem, I want you to open your text and then follow along the lines. Okay, I will first read lines 1 to 4. Okay, death be not brought, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou thinkst thou dost overthrow, die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. Now in the first line, you can see that the speaker immediately creates a personified version of death, right? Personified, which means giving life to non-living thing. Okay, so the speaker immediately creates a personified version of death by talking directly to him. Now he paints a picture of death as an arrogant being and one who needs to be humbled. Okay, so the speaker assumes the position of the one who must humble this being, that is death. He tells death that he ought not to be so proud, even though for generations people have feared death and called him mighty and dreadful, right? You can see in the second line, mighty and dreadful. The speaker, however, with a voice of absolute authority on the matter, simply states, thou art not so. So first and second lines, in simple words, it means that death do not be so proud, though some people have called you mighty and dreadful, but you are not so. Okay, so coming to lines 3 and 4, John Donne claims that while death thinks that he has the power to kill, he actually does not. The speaker first humbles death by telling him that his idea that he has the power to overthrow lives is simply an illusion and that he has no such power at all, right? Okay, then to further humiliate death, the speaker calls him poor death. Okay, you can see in line 4, poor death. It sounds almost as if the speaker is making fun of death for having lived under such an illusion that he had any sort of power over life or death. Then he addresses death in a more personal manner, challenging him by saying, yet canst thou kill me. It seems dangerous for one to threaten death in this way, right? For anyone of us to threaten death. But what gives him this courage? What gives him this authority to challenge death? You will see in the poem further. Okay. Lines 5 to 8. From rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure, then from thee much more must flow, and soonest our best man with thee do go, rest of their bones and soul's delivery. Okay, first I'll explain lines 5 and 6. Now, with these lines, the speaker compares death to rest and sleep. Okay, now he says that you are just a picture of rest and sleep, and even uses the word pleasure in line 6 to describe how we should feel about death. Just as a restful night of sleep brings pleasure to us, so should death. The speaker implies that sleep is simply a glimpse of death. Okay, thus there is nothing to fear in death, for death will bring something like a pleasurable sleep. Line 7 and 8. Here, the speaker says that the best men seem to experience death sooner than us, while others have long questioned why it seems as if the best people among us die soonest. The speaker offers an answer here, suggesting that the best men deserve to experience the peaceful rest of death sooner, okay, without having to endure the hardships and agonies of a long life on the earth. Now, the speaker describes death as rest of their pawns and soul's delivery in lines 8, right? So both these descriptions, rest of their pawns and soul's delivery, make death seem like a welcome friend who comes to graciously offer rest and peace and the deliverance of one's soul from an earthly body where pain and suffering abide. Okay, so in short, line 5 to 8, it says, death, you are no different from rest and sleep. You are just a picture of rest and sleep. So you also provide pleasurable sleep and nothing more. Okay, and our best men go ahead of us because they don't have to endure the agonies of a long life on the earth. Okay, you just provide rest to their pawns and you just deliver their soul. So where to death deliver this best man's soul? We will get to know more in the coming lines. Lines 9 to 12. Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and dosed with poison, war, and sickness toil, and Popeye and charms can make us sleep as well, and better than thy stroke, why swellest thou then? Now, lines 9 and 10. Here the speaker takes a stronger tone and begins to tone death with more ferocity than he did at first. Okay, here he calls death a slave to chance, kings, and desperate men. Okay, he does not even call death a servant but a slave to chance, kings, and desperate men. Now, the other meaning of desperate men here is people who commit suicide. Okay, he tells that he is not mighty and dreadful, but rather a poor slave who cannot even act on his own, but is driven not only by fate and chance, but also by people, rich and poor alike. He then accuses death of having lowly companions such as poison, war, and sickness. He has taunted death, telling him that he is not to be feared, but rather that he is a slave to the will of fate and men, and that as a lowly slave, his companions are even lowlier beings such as sickness and war. This accusation serves to allow the readers to feel a sense of power and victory over death. The speaker certainly feels authority over death, and he passes this feeling along to his readers, okay, when he puts death in his place by talking down to death. Now, lines 11 and 12, the speaker continues to daunt death even more, saying that all he brings is a little sleep, and he does not even do that, as well as some other bringers of rest, such as Popeye and Charms. The comparison between Popeye and Charms and death further portrays death as something not only weak but even pleasurable. Okay, like John Donne have said in the beginning lines, where he says that death is just a picture of rest and sleep, right? So he says that death is not only weak but even pleasurable. Okay, the speaker questions death, asking, why swellest thou then? He is asking him why he is so proud, so buffed up with pride, when he cannot even do his job as well as others can. Okay, so in short, lines 9 to 12, he says, "You are a slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, people who commit suicide." Okay, and as such, your companions are poison, war, and sickness. Okay, even Popeye and Charms can make us sleep as well. So what is the difference? What is the difference? Okay, and better than Thai stroke, and it is better. Popeye and Charms are better than your stroke. Okay, so why are you so proud then? That is what he asked. Okay, now next, lines 13 and 14. "One short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die." Now, before I explain these last two lines, I want to tell you that this poem is a sonnet, right? So in every sonnet, we can see, in any kind of sonnet, okay, we can see that the poet will discuss any kind of problems or issues in the first 12 lines, which does not seem to have an answer. Okay, he will discuss his problems now. So it's likewise, you can see that in the beginning 12 lines, you see that poet was challenging death by saying that you cannot kill me. You are poor. Okay, you are just a slave. So we do not get to see the reason from where the poet got the audacity or the courage to challenge death, right? Okay, but here in these last two lines, we see what gives him the courage to challenge death. Okay, now with these two final lines, the speaker reveals exactly why he has been taunting death so relentlessly. Okay, although it is so obvious that death is real and that people who experience death do not come back to earth, the speaker reveals his reasons for claiming that death is weak and easily overcome. He claims that death is only one short sleep. Okay, one short sleep, and that those who experience death will wake eternally. Then he claims that death shall be no more. Okay, finally he tells death, "Thou shalt die." The speaker has not only told death that he has no real power over anyone, but that he will experience the end of himself when all wake in eternity and death will be no more. Okay, so you can also see that John Donne himself was a Christian, so he have applied the Christian doctrine of eternal life after death. Okay, so with this taking the concept of eternal life, he personifies that and challenges that you cannot actually kill us. Okay, you are just delivering us to the other side of life where we will wake eternally. Okay, when he says in the last line, "Death shall be no more," which means when we wake eternally, there will be no more death for us. And in the last line, again, you see death, "Thou shalt die." Okay, it doesn't mean that death himself will die, but the death for us is no more, right? Because we wake eternally. That is the reason why there will be no more death for us. So death himself or itself is death for us. Okay, so we will not experience that anymore. Okay, so in short, let me review the poem that I've discussed in short. Okay, now John Donne personifies that and says that, "Do not be proud, okay, though people have called you mighty and dreadful, but you are not so. Okay, for those whom you think that you have killed them or overthrown them, they do not actually die, poor death. Okay, nor you can kill me. You are just a picture of rest and sleep, and you just give us pleasurable sleep only." Okay, and he says that our best men also have left us sooner, but you have just given rest to their pawns and just delivered their souls. That's all, nothing more than that. You have not overcome, or you have not conquered anyone. Okay, and he again says that you are just a slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and you are a companion of poison, war, and sickness, like lowly beings. Okay, and he says that Popeye and Charms can make us sleep as well, and they can make us sleep better than your stroke. Okay, so why are you so proud? So in the last two lines, he ends up by saying that one short sleep past, we wake eternally, right? So the poet considers this process of dying to that or one short sleep, okay, a short sleep, and after which we will wake up eternally and there will be no more death for us. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Now before I end up this poem, I would like to end with the major theme of this poem. Now the major theme in the poem is the powerlessness of death. Okay, powerlessness of death. The poem comprises the poet's emotions mocking the position of death and arguing that death is unworthy of fear and awe. Now according to Donne, death gives birth to our souls. Therefore, it should not consider itself mighty or superior, as death is not invincible. The poet also considers death an immense pleasure similar to sleep and rest. For him, the drugs can also provide the same experience. Drugs like Popeye and Charms can also experience the same, can also give the same experience like death. Okay, so the poem foreshadows the realistic presentation of death and also firmly believes in eternal life after death. So that is all for this poem, and if you have any doubts you can always clarify. Till then, stay safe.